this Agile philosophy a little bit. Let's talk about Agile philosophy that we already know now. This is our session number 3. For some, 4, but session number 3 for most of us, right? So we have talked about Agile projects to or starting point of Agile projects to be understanding the needs of stakeholders. That's the starting point of an Agile project. And that leads to creation of a requirement document, but in Agile, we call it product backlog. Now, what we do is we don't go out there and deliver everything that is listed in this product backlog, sometimes called user stories. Let's say there are 2,000 user stories here. We don't go out there building 2,000 user stories in one run, but what we do is we do it as part of iterations. Iteration 1, we will deliver some part of the product. Iteration 2, we will progressively elaborate it. Iteration 3, now we'll try to give it a shape that is consumable. Iteration 4, 5, and we will continue this journey till we have created a stable product. But the product starts, our consumers start consuming the product maybe here because it has become marketable, right? So this is how Agile functions. And every iteration, if I said every iteration has 4 events. You already know about that now. Every iteration has 4 events, mostly in most organizations. And the events are iteration planning, development or daily stand-up. Some organizations call it daily Scrum. Then review, iteration review. We like to call it demo nowadays. And finally, retrospective. Right? This is your journey. And you got to work in one iteration through planning, daily stand-up, reviews, demos, and review, demos, and retrospective. And then start again, planning with your product owner, daily stand-up, with your development team, review with your product owner, and retrospective. Now, look, your work. So look at this picture here. In an Agile project, so let's write down here, in an Agile project, what is the work of a business analyst? Let's create a picture for this a little bit to give you some understanding. So let's say this is the time cycle of Agile project: iteration planning, daily stand-up or development, test, review or demo, whatever you may want to call it, and retro, the 4th event. These events are also called ceremonies, right? And let's say here on this y-axis, you have work of a BA. You know, work of a BA during planning is very high. This is where iteration planning, it's extremely high, right? You got to focus extremely high, work closely with your stakeholders, and prioritize with your product owner, right? Capture the user stories, they may already be present, and then decompose them into smaller tasks. Plus, work with your PO and create acceptance and evaluation criterias, right? So look, work of a BA is you are having meetings here with your PO. In the early stages, you are having meetings with your PO or key stakeholders or key stakeholders. You are providing details about the requirements or user stories. You are capturing greater level of details. You are developing acceptance and evaluation criteria. A lot of work for you in the beginning. And if you do this work well, what happens is by the time you come to this development stage here, by the time you come to the development stage, you become a proxy product owner and a point of contact. So after the initial stage of a project, right? Let's just now not call it agile or predictive. After the initial stages of a project, you become more of a point of contact. And now the development team may send you an email and say, well, Mona, I don't understand that user story. And what do? You schedule a meeting with this developer and provide them clarification. Most of the time, because you have developed good understanding of these requirements, you are able to provide the clarification. But sometimes you will have a greater hurdle. You will facilitate a greater session to provide these clarifications, and you may invite your product owner in there because some of the things there would be some of the things that you may not be able to answer, right? There could be gap in business knowledge, and it's all good. That's what project management and business analysis is all about. uh, Last week, I think it was Asia who said collaboration. Asia, did you say collaboration last time? You did, right? So I also have to test my memory a little bit here. Who says what is very important because I'm interested in your pursuit of goal, right? If I don't remember what you say, what is the point of teaching here? So she said collaboration. It is collaborative on day one. It is collaborative on last day, and it is collaborative again at the beginning of the next iteration, right? Good business analysts must ensure that they don't present themselves as someone who knows it all. Actually, no one in the world should present themselves as someone who knows it all. We all must stay vulnerable. It is very important. People who say or show that they know it all actually put themselves in greater risk in life than people who say, I'm willing to learn, I'm ready to be coached. Coaching, even the greatest leader on earth has a mentor and a coach, right? So you become a point of contact, and because you have worked so hard in capturing these user stories or requirements, providing details, working with the PO, you're able to answer us all the questions. But sometimes you collaborate, invite other teams, and try to resolve some of the issues, right? You become a point of contact during daily stand-ups. And during review again, as you see in the picture here, your work is again, it peaks again, right? It peaks again because now you are either testing this product with your PO, or sometimes the PO product owner is not there. You are the one who is doing all that functional text testing and providing the acceptance on behalf of the PO. Usually POs will be there, but you're the one who is doing the testing, ensuring that the product is stable, ensuring that there are zero defects in this product. And you're providing acceptance or saying that the work is done and done. And then the work at the end of the iteration for you is about facilitating a retrospective session, right? Your work is about facilitating a retrospective session, 1 or 2 hours, to understand what worked well, what did not work so well, and what are the opportunities for improvement. So a manager at CIBC, she loves to ask this question to the BAs when she interviews them, right? And she says, by the way, she would say, by the way, Yassine, what is your day like? What is your day like? Right? So, what could be your answer? And what should generally be anybody's answer who works in project management and business analysis? Your answer should be something like, so if someone said, what is your day like? You could answer this based on first, what is my day like? What is my day like generally? My day would start with my day would start with checking my emails. I like to check my emails. And why do I like to check my emails? Because I want to ensure that I am not missing on anything urgent from my stakeholders. If there is any request from my stakeholders, I want to uh, provide responses to those requests in the morning itself. And I also want to ensure that all the priorities are still the same priorities as yesterday and nothing has shifted. So start my day with checking my emails. And why do I check my emails? To provide responses on urgent requests to my stakeholders. Urgent request to my stakeholders. And what else? And ensure that priorities have not shifted. This is the first thing. What is my day like? This is what I do. First thing. This is what we all must do. Even Elon Musk does the same thing. He checks his email, spends an hour. If you hear some of his interviews, this is what he will say. I check my emails the first thing. I want to make sure that I responded to all my urgent emails before I go on the floor of Tesla in that big factory and start doing what I love doing, being with people and building cars, right? But I like to check my emails. And then as a business analyst, then you can say the second point and the last point would be my work, how my day is also depends on what stage of the project I am working on. Project I am working on, right? If I'm working, now the answer would be if I'm working in the early stages of a project, my day would be filled with meeting with stakeholders, understanding their needs, capturing the requirements or user stories, and providing a greater level of detail to those. But if I'm working on the later stages, so early stages, you saw that graph here. Early stages, my work is my work is focused on building working with stakeholders, product owners, and ensuring that I understand the requirements, I capture them, provide the greater level of detail. But in the later stages, these stages of the project, my day would be filled with providing clarification on requirement, becoming a point of contact, facilitating various sessions, and also working with my product owners in doing some kind of testing, resolving defects, and ensuring that the product is accepted. And at later parts, I may be facilitating workshops to capture or facilitate lesson learned sessions and providing support to my teams. Right? So look how simple things are, and everything is based on this life cycle of a project, be it an agile based project or be it a waterfall based project. There is early stage of the project, there is this middle stage where development happens, and there is this later stage. But your answer, now look how we answered this question. Someone said, what is your day like? Well, my day starts with checking my emails. And I like to ensure that I have provided responses to my stakeholders on any urgent request, and also ensure that my priorities are still the same as yesterday's and nothing has shifted. My day also depends on the phase of the project I'm working on. If I'm working in the early stages, my day would be filled with meetings with stakeholders, understanding their requirements, capturing requirements or user stories, and providing further details. In the later parts of the project or the middle of the project, I may become point of contact and provide clarifications to my stakeholders or my developers about the requirements. During testing, I may be more involved with QA teams as well as my product owners in not only testing but providing acceptance on the product that has been created. And finally, in the end of the project, I may facilitate lesson learned sessions to understand what is working well, what is not working well, and what are the opportunities for improvement, apart from providing support to my end user community so that they can seamlessly adopt the products and services we are creating, right? So we'll send this answer to you, but there is a visual. So everything in this world is very logical if you know the life cycle of the work that you do. But if you are a person who only wants to work in a compartment or this segment, I only, and doesn't want to work on other areas, you will never be able to speak from the life cycle perspective. Keep this in mind. Whatever you do in your life, whether you become a BA or you do something else, or you do accounting, someone does accounting here, I guess. If you will say that I'm only going to create a financial sheet or a balance sheet and don't want to learn about other things, you only have you will not even be a specialist. You can't be called a specialist if you don't understand life cycle of a business. I think it is very important if you want to stay relevant in this world. You must ensure that you understand the life cycle of a business, right? So this answer about what is your day like comes from your understanding of the entire life cycle of a project, be it agile or waterfall. Any questions here? Are we all good? Very simple, right? Any questions? Good? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
All good.
All good, right? Very good. All right. So then I wanted to speak to you about one other very important thing that RBC loves asking, because we work so closely with RBC. They just love to ask that, right? So they'll say, well, uh, when do you think your requirements are complete? They may say requirement. Sometimes they may say, when do you think the same thing? When do you think requirements or user stories are complete? Depending on waterfall project or agile project. When do you think requirements or user stories, when do you think they are complete, right? When do you think requirements or user stories are complete? Just because you have documented them? Are they complete just because you have documented them and worked with your PO? So let me ask all of you very quickly, 5 to 10 seconds. Let's see what you think. So Mona, what do you think? When do you think requirements are deemed complete? Okay, there's some challenge in Mona, so we'll go to Asia. Asia, what do you think? Oh, she's no, she's still muted. So Asia, very quickly, based on your understanding, when do you think requirements are complete? Or anyone in the class who would like to take a stab at it, when do you guys think the requirements are complete?
We have met the definition of done.
And the acceptance and evaluation criteria are established.
Evaluation and acceptance criteria is
Met.
is
Or
met.
met.
No, is established. You've documented it. You've not even gone in the. So look, guys, that question comes from here. The question comes from here. Whatever waterfall or agile projects, right? Waterfall projects go like this. You are in requirement phase, then you are in development phase, then you are in test phase, then you are in requirement followed by requirements and analysis phase, or requirements and design phase. This is primarily BA's. So this is BA's job, right? Development, test, and then deployment or transition phase. Deployment or transition phase. So this is waterfall. Agile is no different. In waterfall, we try to, if there were 2000 requirements in your requirement document, you will design all the requirements, you will develop all the requirements, but test all of them and then deploy them. But in Agile, what happens is the idea is the same. You do this in iteration, right? Instead of taking one big journey, you do this in iteration, but the idea is same. Iteration planning, stand up, review. Review is also or leads to deployment, or shipping. Review leads to shipping. Review and demo leads to shipping the product, and then retro. The idea is the same as waterfall, right? So when is the requirement deemed complete? What is the answer? The
Upon
answer is
review?
just hold on. The answer is here. When do you think? So you are here right now. You're writing the requirements. You're here. You're here. When do you think the requirement is ready to be handed over to the development team so that they can start coding them, right? So that they can start coding them. And Mona was saying something.
Once you're done your demo and you've done your review.
No. So we are only here right now. We are here. You are here right now. User story or requirement. If you are in waterfall project, we call it requirement. And if you're in agile project, iteration planning, we call it user story. You are here right now, guys, right? So when do you think you can move from hand over these requirements to the development team so that they can develop it? Here, or when do you think a requirement can be handed over to a development team?
Yes, when the all the user stories are in order in the backlog.
In the iteration log, when the
Yes, in
user
the
stories are
iteration log.
there,
Yes.
and for each iteration, each user story, Rupam said there is
And acceptance and evaluation.
Evaluation.
acceptance and evaluation criteria. So, okay, that's good. That's good. So let's write it down here. When do you think requirements or user stories are deemed complete? Right? When do you think they are complete? So let's talk about it a little bit. Let me if I can just erase this from here. Right? A very important question. Whether you're working on agile project or waterfall based project, when do you think requirements are complete? When can you hand them over to the development team so that they can start doing the work? So look, this is what I'm trying to say. You want to build a house. Let's take a very simple example. And you want to build a house? You said, I like a 3,500 square feet home. Number one. Number two, we like 4 bedrooms. I want some of the stakeholders in your house said, we like every bathroom to have an ensuite or let's say 4+1 bathrooms. We like to have a kitchen. We like to have a swimming pool. We like to have a study and, right? So you wrote down these requirements. So this is your requirement phase. Then you handed these requirements over to the design team. The architect came and created a picture of how your house will look like. With a swimming pool here. Created the picture design, right? Design was created. IT projects work no differently, right? Design was created. So when do you think after design, the construction team came and these designs and requirements were handed over to the construction team? My question is, when do you think you are ready to hand over the requirements to the construction team? On IT projects, when do you think you are ready to hand over the product to your requirements or user stories to the development team? So that was the question.
After
And
planning? After planning?
after planning, okay, but
And after
when do you
also,
think, the question is, when do you think requirements are deemed complete? right? So that you can hand them over. So the question, when do you think requirements are deemed complete? Now take a look at it. So on agile projects, when are they deemed complete? And then waterfall projects, when they are deemed complete. So next week we are focusing on waterfall based project, but so when do you think requirements or user stories are complete or deemed complete? User stories or requirements are deemed complete. They're deemed complete when they have been approved, when your stakeholders have given you a sign off, when the requirements have been signed off and approved, they're deemed complete. So some in IT based projects, we say that in agile based project, we say that requirements are complete or requirements or user stories, let's say user stories are complete when they are mature enough to be handed over to dev team. They're complete and they're signed off. So look, so if I ask you this question next time, when do you think requirements are deemed complete? Requirements are complete when they're signed off. And when do they get signed off? Why do stakeholders sign it off? When they have confidence that you have provided all the level of details required and there will be no confusion with development team. They can go and start developing the work without too many questions, right? You provided enough level of detail. Now, what is that enough level of detail that goes with requirements or user stories? So if it is a user story, it must contain definition of done and acceptance and evaluation criteria associated with it. Apart from that, every user story should also have some non-functional requirements associated with it. What are the non-functional requirements is not in scope for today, but they should have some non-functional requirements. They should have some business rules established with them. You should have captured some business rules. Every user story or requirement should have uh, some messages if they are required. Every user story or non-functional requirement should have every user story should have acceptance evaluation criteria, non-functional requirement, business rules, messages. Along with that, they should also contain some data related information or data catalogs. So what are data catalog, messages, business rules, and non-functional requirements? Not something we're going to discuss today, but I just wanted to open this up for you, right? So in an interview, this is what the role of a business analyst is: not just to write this one line statement called, as a user, I would like the ability to capture the image as what we discussed last time, so that I don't have to go to a branch and I can save time, right? Very simple user story. Every user story should have an acceptance and evaluation criteria, should have some non-functional requirements, right? Should have some business rules associated with it, rules that are given by business, should have some messages associated with it, should have some data elements captured, right? So look, I'll give you an example. Let's go to the user story. Let's go to this user story that we created last time. User story. And the user story was about check capture. It was about check capture, right? It was a check capture user story. And we said, as a user, as an authorized user, I will like the ability to, as an authorized user, I like the ability to capture or scan the check and deposit funds. And finally, what is the benefit? Funds. So that I don't have to go to a branch. I can save time, or my balance is updated, whatever you want to say. This is your user story. This is not the only thing you do. Now you say the business rule. You go to the business and ask them what is the business rule here, and business may say, well, the image, when the customer is taking the image, this should be the specification of the image. If it is this specification, we will accept the check. If it is not this specification, the other rule, business rule said, well, every check should have clear, the check should be clear, properly signed off and all that. Business has given some business rules. Then you said non-functional requirements. Non-functional requirements, specifications. You said, business said to you, well, you know what? This check would be saved in our database for 7 years. For 7 years. This is one of the business rules, right? We will provide security to the customer, certain kind of security to the customer about this check and image and all that. Then said, if the image, you take the image, so guys, look, if you take the image and the image does not fit the business rule that or the specification that business has given, what happens? Nothing happens, or something happens to you. You see something. What happens if something doesn't go? If you enter a wrong password, does the system kick you out of the system? If you go to an ATM,
you get prompted for like an incorrect message or bad password.
You get messages, right? So every business analyst should also ask business owners, are there some messages that we must generate? And the business owner will say, oh, don't worry about it. I already have the message for this. It is in the message catalog, right? So messages are captured, and then there is some data. For example, the business may say, I would like to capture the name of the bank from which this check has been deposited. I like to put it in the database. I like to capture the name of the beneficiary here. I like to ensure the denomination or the dollar amount, right? So data. So some of the things, right? So if I had to ask this question and I asked Yassine, when do you think, based on what you just heard, when do you think requirements are deemed complete? How would you answer that question? Where would you start?
In an Agile-based project, they'd be deemed complete after signed off and approved by the stakeholders, and they should
Very
be
good.
mature enough to be handed over to the dev team to start
And
the
this is what is called definition of ready.
definition of ready.
It's not definition of ready. Requirements have a definition of ready. So every organization says to the business, when you go and join a project, in Agile project, your manager will say, or your product owner will say, well, Yassine, you write a user story, but that's not the only work you do. There is other things that I would want, and that's what is my definition. For every user story, I have a definition of ready. And the definition of ready for every user story, Yassine, is I want appropriate acceptance and evaluation criteria. I will provide you that, the product owner may say. I want business rules. I want data. I want messages. I want non-functional requirements. And I would like certain format. And this is my definition of ready. Make sure that every requirement checks on these things, every user story or requirement. Now look, you are a business analyst, you captured a requirement or user story, and you have a checklist. You've been given a checklist. In the beginning itself, you'll be coached on this, and they may call it definition of ready or just a checklist for a good, complete requirement. And the checklist will be your requirement should be signed off. The requirement should have acceptance and evaluation criteria or definition of done. The requirement should have non-functional requirement specification. The requirement should have business rule. The requirement should have messages or message catalogs. The requirement should have data information, or it should have a data catalog, all the data requirements, right? Every requirement should have at a bare minimum this information. So when is a requirement deemed complete? As Yasin said, requirements are deemed complete when they have been approved, or requirements or user story. The answer is the same. When they have been approved and signed off, that's number one criteria. And when do they get signed off? When you have ensured that they are mature enough. And when are they mature enough? When you got acceptance and evaluation criteria, non-functional requirements, business rules, message catalogs updated, and data catalogs updated. You may not have to do all this work because this may already exist. But sometimes you may have to verify that your requirement has not created additional business rules. So non-functional requirements are already there. For example, let me show you this. Let's say you are developing a login page. You're developing a login. Everyone should log into a banking application. Every customer has to log in. You're writing requirements for login, right? Now, you wrote require as a user, I would like the ability to log into the website using the credential, username and password provided to me. So you wrote this down, right? Now, for this login, you wrote some business rules. And who gave you the business rule? Business rules already exist as part of a organizational business rule catalog. They already are there. You will just verify and ask your product owner, are there any other business rule? And the product owner may say, no, there are none. Don't worry about it. Then there is something called non-functional requirement specification. Non-functional requirements are requirements such as security. They are requirements such as availability, requirements such as documentation, requirements such as scalability, requirements such as adaptability, right? So as a good business analyst, you want to make sure that no one should be allowed to log in if they have not provided username and passwords. The website is fully secure, right? No one should be able to breach security of the website. Whether you are doing a face scan, whether you're doing a thumbprint, whether you're doing, putting username and password, or just doing voice authentication, whatever that is, no one should be able to. So every requirement has supporting requirements. And these supporting requirements are called non-functional requirements. Organizations have already created these. You don't do any additional work here. They already have it. They know how to keep their website secure. They have worked on it. Now, when the new way of logging in comes in, for example, last year when most of the banks started saying face scan, they added additional security measures. Otherwise, they don't change. Similarly, let me ask this question to Nida. Nida, if you have a business, right? During Ramadan, you sell products, correct? Is that what you told me?
Yes.
You do decorations and all that. So
Yes.
Nida, by the way, guys, is a entrepreneur. She during Ramadan she does various different kinds of decorations and all that. You can hire her, right? If you were so interested. But if she did other decorations than Ramadan, then I'm going to call her to my house to do something for me for my niece's thing that is happening in my house for a day or something. So I'm going to invite you to do that in the month of August, and I'll see. Of course, you are really, really good, but I'll see the true demonstration of your abilities at that time, right? So
Sure.
that is a contract that I'll give you from me. So, anyways, moving on. That's what also a little bit of advertising for you. I
Thank you.
I like small business owners, right? We all are small business owner in our own right. So look, so you build a website, Nida.
Yes.
Would you not want your website to be available 24/7, or would you like your website to be available only in the day? What would you like?
I would like to available for 24/7.
So all of us, the business analysts right now, guys, any feature that you are developing, would you not want it to be available 24/7 at least, right? Or if there is a contractor, would you not sign a SLA, service level agreement with them and say, I want my website to be available 99.9999% times. And if any of my websites are not available in that range, I will penalize you in some way. Recently, my websites are hosted by GoDaddy, right? GoDaddy is a big hosting, and most of us here see the ads. My website, all my websites are hosted by GoDaddy. You know, recently the website was down. I didn't know what time it was down. They refunded about 13 cents to me. Nothing big, but they did refund some money to me for the downtime that happened at some point of time. I didn't even know when the downtime was, right? But they did refund the money. So they, because it was outside the SLA that we had signed. I didn't know what the SLA. Who do we read credit cards when we get a credit card? All those, no, we don't read all that. And if it is, we must read. And if you try to read it in front of your friends, they will actually start laughing you and mocking you. Hey, what the heck are you doing, man? Wasting your time doing this? We must read if we sign something. But even mortgage, if you go and apply for a mortgage and you get a mortgage and you're buying a new house, you sign these documents and you have to probably give signatures 45 or 50 times. We never read them. We just say, oh, I just do HD. I like, to hell with it. Just finish it off for me, right? But so in banking also, you must ask these good questions. Is it feature available? Is it there already documented as part of non-functional requirement? And it is. You don't have to do any work here. Do I have the adequate documentation for it? Definition ready met? Yes, good. Is this feature scalable? If today, how many million users are there? You asked your IT team. They said, well, our website is being, at TD, our website is being used by almost 17 million people today. Let's say this is what you said. Well, if it increased to 19 million, would we still be able to host our td.com? They said, yes, don't worry about it. We're good till 30 million. Right? They've already covered you here. Then you said adaptability. You're writing a feature, right? Do all of you have Apple phones? Is everyone using Apple phones?
Yes.
iOS? No, some of us are not using iOS here, right? I think my sister doesn't use iOS and a couple of other people don't use iOS here. So they use Android, right? Or you may have an Apple phone or an Android phone. So when you're writing a feature, would you not want to make sure? And actually, by the way, Apple is only, what did they say? They only have 17% or 12% of the market. The rest of the market is with Android, by the way, right? We live in Canada, so we feel so entitled to things. But really, if you go around the world and visit other countries, you won't find Apple phone with people. They will have Android phones, Samsung phones, and all those phones that are coming from China right now, which are a little cheaper, right? So would you not want, when you write a feature, that it should be on iOS and it should also work on Android or any other? Initially, we also used to ensure that it worked on BlackBerry platform, but now no one cares about BlackBerry. Even banks don't care about BlackBerry, right? We don't hardly see anyone using that clunk of a device. So there you go. So what is the non-functional requirements? These are supplementary, complementary requirements. Now, if NIDA has a website and it is available 24/7, not 12 hours and 7 days, what happens? Client experience is extended. Clients have a really good experience. What happens when you provide a facial scan and people are client experience? They don't have to go and every time and click on that face icon on TD or CIBC and then do all that kind of thing. They just go like this and they're logged in, right? Client experience is being extended. Providing good documentation. I recently bought a because I use Microsoft laptop, it is easier for me to use Surface over Apple. I'm very technologically not there yet. So and also I'm able to write on the screen. It's easier for me to do my work. So for me, it or for other users, right? I bought a Citrix. For if you're using Apple and Mac machine, there is no virus and all that. You don't have to buy antivirus. But uh, people like us, we do have to. So we bought something from a company, and then it didn't work. It didn't install well. I went on FAQ. You won't believe, a company as big as this virus scan provider. I don't know what the name is. I forget the name. It's the biggest company. There is no bigger company than this. Uh, Anyways, whatever that is. You know, the FAQs were written in 2011. They're not even updated. Good business analysts will always ensure that if a customer wanted to know how to capture check, they can literally hover their mouse on top of that feature and they can see a question mark and click on it, and information will pop up right there. There is proper documentation about the feature they are building. The feature is scalable. Today, your business, so you created a business, a website where 100 users can come, and suddenly tomorrow there were 200 users and your website crashed. You must write a feature, and maybe you don't have to do any work, but you should at least check with your IT team. Are we scalable? Still scalable? Good business, science of a good business analyst, and adaptability. Now look, a website that is adaptable, Android users can use it, iOS users can use it. A website that is scalable, a website where there is proper documentation, website where there is proper availability, and website that is secure. Would you not love that experience? Right? So every feature or requirement you capture, there is a non-functional requirement. Non-functional requirements increase the quality of your product and service that you're building, right? They are supplementary and they're complementary. And these requirements are requirements such as security, availability, documentation, scalability, and many other. These are just, right? You don't have to do any work here, but you should at least confirm with your IT teams that these are still going right? So now you know, and this manager at CIBC loves to ask you, what are functional and non-functional requirements? Functional requirements are features and functions of a product. Functional requirements are features and functions of a product. Open Amazon's website. If you were to open Amazon's website right now, and what you see here on top, let me open Amazon's website and tell you. Whatever you see on this product, such as search, account, books, electronics, and all the product categories, purchase history, register, all the features and functions that you can use and consume on the website are called functional requirements that make this product functional, right? Functional requirements are all the features and functions of a product, and these are deemed necessary for this product to be consumable, right? For example, you can say, if someone asked you this question, for example, on Amazon, you have features and functions such as search, you have feature purchase history, account, register, and the big product catalog. On TD's website, these features and functions, you can go on td.com and see all these features and functions that you can use. Login, pay bills, check capture. These are all features and functions. And non-functional requirements are not something that are visible to you, but they are making this experience very delightful and exciting, such as security, adaptability, scalability, availability, and other such attributes. If you're building digital products like website, portals, Mobile applications. These non-functional requirements now are equally important. They are not supplementary and complementary anymore, because these are the requirements that are giving our users exciting and delightful experience. First of all, did everyone understand? First question to you would be, did you understand when are requirements deemed complete? Did everyone understand that? Any questions around that? Okay, so when they are approved, signed off, and you have met the definition of ready and all those good things, you've checked on all those good things, right? And those good things were non-functional requirement, acceptance and evaluation criteria, business rules, data catalogs, and messages, etc. Then we said, what are functional and non-functional requirements? Functional requirements are all your user stories, which are features. They will become features and functions of a product. For example, on Amazon website, features and functions could be search, the register, login, purchase history, account, and the product catalog. On TD's website, it could be login again, right? It could be pay bills. It could be image capture on the mobile application. It could be see the balance. It could be check your account history for past 3 months, 6 months, generate PDFs. All these are your features and functions. These are required by the consumer to be able to consume your product. Non-functional requirements are associated with functional requirements. They are nice to have, complementary, supplementary, or quality requirements. Non-functional requirements in mobile base could be things like security, availability, data retention, scalability, adaptability, etc. Non-functional requirements on mobile-based projects or digital projects are considered essential now because they increase or extend client experience. And when I say they increase and extend client experience, I mean they make it more delightful. They make it more exciting for the consumer. Right? Good, everyone? All right, we'll take a quick break for 5 minutes, and then we will start again, right? And then when we start, so grab some coffee, tea, and then we'll start again.
Hamid,
Yeah.
I have one question. I have one question, please. Can you elaborate more on the difference between definition of done and definition of ready?
Yeah. So let's open a new slide. What is definition of ready and what is definition of done? Let's say you are building a feature called login into the website. Clients will be able to log in. Definition of and their user story could be, or let's just say very simply, ability for clients to log in. You wrote this user story, right? As a user, I like the ability and all that. You wrote that user story, definition ready. You ensured that non-functional requirements are complete. You went to your product owner, said, is there any business rule associated with it? They gave you the business rules, or they were already there. Said, if the user is not able to log in and they enter wrong credential, what happened? They said, this is the message they will see. They said, are there any data requirements? And they said, yeah, we like to capture data such as how many times the client has logged in. So data retention or data catalog, UCAP. What are any data related requirements, data catalog? We're going to elaborate that in the later session when we get to that level of maturity, right? We'll elaborate all these later. So then he said, sometimes we also attach UI or mockup. How would the login page look like? The UI, user interface, the UX, user experience team has created a mockup. Said the login page will appear here on our website. So they've created a mockup. Sometimes we also add a mockup. Now, if you have written a user story and of course you got your acceptance and evaluation criteria going with it. Acceptance and evaluation. When you have met all this, these requirements are now ready to be signed off and handed over to the next team. So this is your definition of ready. Definition of done is you went to your product owner and said, well, when the dev team has developed this product, so when they have developed the product, when they have developed it, and when we are doing the demo, what would it take for you to accept the product? So later on during demo, the product owner will come. What would it take? So the product owner says, every user should have a username. So every user should be, only those users that are registered should be able to log in. People who have not registered cannot log in into our website. That's one of my definitions of done. Second is said, if a user enters username, if the user enters, so product owner is saying this to the BA, if the user enters a username and password, and if it is correct, they should be allowed to log in. And if a user enters incorrect username and password, there should be an error message that is generated. I'm going to test all this when the product is created. And if you don't do this, then I am not going to accept this product. So Salim, and for everyone, definition of ready is to ensure that our specifications that we have built are complete, approved, and you have met certain criteria or a checklist. Definition of ready is a simple checklist. Definition of done is acceptance rules provided by definition of done, or we'll right now combine acceptance and evaluation criteria, is provided by the product owner, and they are giving you some tests. They're giving you list of tests that they will run when the product is ready after stand up, and during demo they're going to run these tests. And only when these aspects, your product meets these aspects, is when they will say that this product is ready to be shipped. Otherwise they will not let you move to the next iteration. Salim, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So definition of done is basically one step before the MVP is fully ready, up and running, is it?
So before you ship the product to the customer, product owner wants to ensure that it has everything that is required. Okay? So let's say I built a bike for you, and I said, and I wrote, so you want a bike, so Salim wants a bike. Salim has given me a contract to build a bike. I said, I wrote down the requirements. I said the bike will have 2 wheels, it will have a handle, it will have a seat, and Salim and I made sure that it met all these other non-functional requirement, and my PO signed off. But my PO said, Salim, that's great that you captured the requirements, but look, I'm going to test your bike. When the bike is ready, when your company, your manufacturing unit has created a bike, here you go, my definition of done. The bike should be very easy to use. I should be able to, I should be able to sit and apply brakes, and it should brake, and it should be able to attain a certain speed of 10 miles per hour at least, and a couple of other things. Only when you have provided me a secured bike and it contains these criteria is when I will say this is done, I will pay you, and then we will ship it to our customer. Salim, that's the answer for you in just layman terms. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Everyone, does definition of done and definition of ready good? Are we good with that?
Yes.
Awesome. So that was a good question. So what we'll do is we will take a break, and we'll come back, and we will start again. When you go for the interview of a business analyst, when you get in there, and there is no interview of a project manager, business analyst, or a leader, or even if you were to say a call center representative, and before, how do you deal with conflict is one of the questions, or how do you deal with people who are difficult? How do you deal with conflicts, and how do you deal with people who are difficult? I wrote this, so all the answers that you read, see what happened here. So conflict and difficult stakeholders. So whenever you have a conflict, first for me, conflict is nothing more than a difference in opinion. That's what conflict is, difficult stakeholder. So what is a conflict? Conflict for me is a difference in opinion. If you treat it as such, conflicts, I don't see conflicts as any challenge, right? Conflict is a mere difference in opinion, and everyone's opinion matters, by the way. Everyone's opinion matters. Sometimes it stops mattering when you become master and you close your ears to other people, right? Master of your trade, your business. But everyone's opinion matters, to be politically correct. So difference in opinion, conflict is nothing but a difference in opinion. Everyone's opinions matter. Now, if you were to go in an interview, this question will be asked always. How do you deal with difficult stakeholders or difference? Whenever you're faced with a situation where there is this difference in opinion or conflict, or you're working with difficult stakeholder, first step is never to run away from a conflict, right? Before I even answer this question and how we must say it and present it to the interviewer, let me tell you this literature that I read about 15 years ago, how to resolve different ways of resolving conflict. They said the worst way to resolve a conflict is when you withdraw, right? The enemy is right at your doorstep and you run away. That's not the way to resolve a conflict. To never withdraw. That should be your last resort. What is the best way? The best way is, again, that word that came up in the first session or the second session, collaborate and problem solve. You know, until and unless you have not collaborated with people who you are having difference in opinion with, and you have not solved their problem, conflict will never be resolved. So conflicts can be resolved. First step always should be, let me collaborate and let me solve this problem that we have at hand, right? Solve the problem. Collaborate and problem solve. Sometimes you won't be able to resolve the conflict by just collaborating and problem solving, because there will be takeaways and action items from these meetings. And during that time, you must ensure that after the meeting, you continue to follow up and work with other groups in resolving these takeaways or addressing these takeaways. And there will be times you have collaborated and tried to problem solve in a meeting. You have done what you could do with the takeaways and action items, and still the issues will not be resolved. During that time, you must escalate, right? Never withdraw, but go collaborate and problem solve. Have a meeting. So the first step, have a meeting. Sometimes in that meeting you will be able to resolve it, but sometimes there will be takeaways and action items. Then work with other groups in resolving these takeaways and action items in a very diligent fashion. If I'm having a conflict with, let's say, Maria, I should first have a meeting with her, collaborate with her, and try to problem solve. In the meeting, in the 1 hour meeting, half an hour meeting, I may not be able to sometimes resolve her concerns. So, and there might be takeaways. There might be conditional sign off. And during that time, I should take those takeaways and follow up with other teams and resolve those takeaways or address those takeaways and action items. But I should also pick up the phone in the next few days, couple of times I pick up the phone and call Maria and say, hey, Maria, you know what, don't worry about it. After our meeting, there were 3 takeaways. I've already resolved 2. I'm on it. You should continue to keep the stakeholder in question updated. And there will be times when you have collaborated, you have done what you could do, huddled with other teams, still you could not resolve. Don't sit on the problem now. Immediately escalate it to the reporting manager and your reporting manager and escalate and devise next course of action. I personally do not believe, guys, that compromising is a way of resolving a conflict, because both parties give in some of their priorities. They give away some of their priorities. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. Our job as a business analyst, in the times when there is conflict and there are 2 parties or more parties involved, is to create a win-win situation. That's what we are here to do. People who cannot create win-win situations for their stakeholders will always deliver diminished value to the stakeholder. Because if I have to lose, then I can maybe figure out ways on my own. They have hired us, the business analysts. They've hired us because we are true analysts. And I'll define an analyst for you very shortly. And we must first try to create win-win situation before we look into other ways of resolving problems like compromising and smoothing, right? So conflicts, these are the steps. So when I sent you that answer, it will address the answer would address this question of conflict and difficult stakeholder in this manner. Let me present it to you a little bit. Conflict, whenever I'm dealing with conflicts or difficult stakeholders, my first step is to engage with them, schedule a meeting, and bring them into a room. My job at that time is to hear them first, listen to them, show empathy during that meeting. So listen to them, actively listen to them, show empathy, and understand what they're saying. Very important. You know, when 2 people have a conflict and we start speaking over each other, we don't get anywhere. So we must always listen to them, actively listen to them, listen to understand, show empathy, understand what the problem is, and then present our point of view. Of course, our opinion matters too. Within that 1 hour meeting, we should try to resolve the concerns of our stakeholders. But there are times when there will be takeaways and action items at the end of the meeting. I must diligently follow up with other groups and try to address these takeaways and action items while keeping my stakeholder updated or abreast about the developments or situations. There are also times when I have put all my effort and within my authority, I'm not able to resolve the issues. And this is my authority. I take these 3 steps. Within my authority, I'm not able to resolve the issues. During that time, I will escalate it to my reporting manager and devise next course of action. That is the answer for conflicts or difficult stakeholders. So whenever someone asks us a question, right? Let's say they say, tell me about a conflict. About conflict. You know, your answer should always be about, well, one of the conflicts that I can remember. Immediately address the question. One of the conflicts that I can think of, it was in my last project, and during that time I scheduled a meeting. Someone said, talk to me about a challenge. What are the challenges that I can think about right now from my recent project? You immediately use that keyword and re-emphasize on that immediately, because you know, people who are very effective in the world, what kind of people are really effective in the world? People who immediately point to the issue at hand, rather than creating stories here, beating the bush here. They immediately jump on the problem. So when you are in an interview, our first thing is, they said, tell me about yourself. Well, to speak about myself, I have a master's. There you go. Immediately, right? Tell me about your most recent project. My most recent project was no story making here. I came from here, I came from there, then I settled in Canada, and then I did this, and then no story making. Straight, pointed answers is the key to winning an interview. And I always say this, guys, that people think that first impression is the last impression. I say that first impression is always the first impression. Lasting impression, people who make lasting impressions are those people who are impactful in the way they are. Don't create impressions in life. Impressions are like rumors, they come and go, right? But people who you would always remember are people who are causing impact, right? People who are causing impact around the world. It could be Nelson Mandela, it could be Gandhi, it could be Elon Musk, it could be Jeff Bezos, it could be any other role model that you have. And if you look back into their history, they are the people who are causing impact. Be impactful. Don't be. Is there a word called impressionable? I don't know if there is a word like that, impressionable. All right. So don't be influenced by that just like that. Just because people exist around you, don't be influenced by them, right? Influenced by only those people who cause impact, who are causing good impact, great impact on the lives of people. So this was one of the questions that I want to deal with today. What are different, if in a situation of conflict, what happens, right? And other question that I wanted to talk about today was, what are the different tools as a business analyst that you have used? Again, the answer should be, well, various tools I have used are various tools that I have used are, look, what is Microsoft Word? Sorry, Microsoft Suite, right? Microsoft Suite is, it provides Word for documentation. It provides Excel to manage our data for data analysis. It provides PowerPoint for presentation to our stakeholders. It provides Visio, MS Visio for modeling. Apart from this, I have also used other core tools such as Confluence, which is a repository management tool, and Jira. Now, what are Confluence and Jira is a demo that will be given by one of my BAs to you guys, right? How do you write user stories using Confluence and Jira? That is a demo that is coming your way. But what I'm going to ask my team is that they should send you a 40-minute video on how to use Confluence. It's a YouTube video, nice YouTube video that will help you prep yourself. Treat any tool in business analysis. Treat any tool in business analysis as a tool that enables you. They're not there. So tools are not there. These tools are not there to add complexity in our life. So what does that mean? So these tools like Confluence and Jira are very intuitive. And if you were to look at them today, you will learn them today, because just like how you know Word, there is homepage, there is, insert, and there are other things. If you even look at Google, what is that, Google Docs and all that, the same thing, same idea, right? Confluence is exactly the same. So if you open Confluence, you are given a space, which is like a home page. Under the space, there are different pages, and these pages now plus, if you click on this plus here in front of the page, then you will see user story, you will see acceptance and evaluation criteria, you will see and you click on this user story, it will say, do you want to create a user? You click on this plus, what will happen is, who what? You get a template, right? So it is so simple. Confluence has, but I don't want to get in here today to speak about how to use Confluence, neither am I going to get into it later because I don't believe that it is important. Why I don't believe it is important is for this reason. Why I don't believe learning about tools is important, because first of all, they're very intuitive, and I don't have time to waste on this. And where are we? Right here. Wow. Right? And secondly, what happened here? C. So very, very intuitive tools, and you can learn about them. And my BA is going to come and help you learn these tools, because I believe that stakeholders, they don't worry about tools so much. The idea of any tool that you use, whether you use Word, whether you use Excel, whether you use PowerPoint, whether you use Visio, whether you use Confluence in your universe as a BA, whether you use nowadays Jira, whether you use a SharePoint, whatever tool you may use, the idea of all the tools is to share information. This is a good business analyst is a great communicator. And how do we communicate? Communication is nothing but sharing of information, and this information could be verbal, this information could be written, and this information could also be non-verbal cues, sometimes called body language, right? So information, I call it verbal, written, and body language, and communication is nothing but sharing of this information. And any of these tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, not Vision, Visio, Confluence, Jira, and SharePoint, any of these tools, the primary goal is to share information, right? Return information. So you turn verbal into return, and also capture people's body language through these tools and document it. Now, stakeholders are overwhelmed by technology. So our goal is not to burden them with additional information and only provide relevant and effective information. That is why in this current age, or in this current era, we are saying that we should always focus on touch. We should focus on people to people communication. Touch means people to people communication over becoming high tech, right? So what are most organizations right now? Because organizations believe that people to people communication is the key. People to people communication is the key. So why burden our stakeholders with these different tools? Let us keep our tools at extremely low tech, but let us become high touch. So, most of the work that you will do will be whiteboarding, because this is what stakeholders understand. Then the outcome of this whiteboarding, you could capture using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Confluence, Jira, or Visio, right? So be high touch, or focus. High touch means focus on people to people communication. And keep in mind that technology is only an enabler. Use it as an enabler. Do not use technology to burden people and show them how good you are at using the technology, because no one cares. People care about the value that you bring to an organization. So if you were in an interview and they were to ask you a question such as, what are the different tools you have used? You got to keep within the scope. Well, I've used various different tools such as Word for documentation, Excel for data analysis, PowerPoint for presentation to my stakeholders, and Visio for modeling. Apart from that, in last couple of years, I've also been using Confluence and Jira for repository or documentation management. That's it. There you go. 30 seconds, move on to the next answer. And this is what we want to do. Keep it short, clear, concise, right? And that's what our sessions are all about. How do we keep it simple? How do we keep it easy? And how do we decipher this complex reality and present information in a very, very simplified form? So what are the different tools you have used? And one last question for today would be, what are the different documents you have created? Documents you have created. Look, you've been working on, you could work on agile based project, and you could also worked on predictive or waterfall based project. So your answer should also be very structured. You should say, well, I've created various documents. For example, while working on agile based projects, I've created product backlogs, nothing that you do not know about, product backlog. I have created user stories, acceptance and evaluation criteria, along with information radiators such as burn up and burn down charts. Charts along with retrospective lesson learned document, retro docs. Whereas on waterfall based projects, I've created business requirement document, software requirement document or software requirement specification. I've created test cases, acceptance test cases, acceptance criteria or test cases. And apart from that, I've also created change management artifacts such as FAQs, job aids, manuals, guidelines, etc. So you're getting this question today too, right? Very simple. So what are the different documents you've created? Well, I have created various different documents depending on the nature of the projects I've been working on. For example, on agile based projects, I've created product backlog, iteration log, user stories, acceptance and evaluation criteria, burn up and burn down charts, and retrospective document. On waterfall projects, I have created BRDs, SRS, test cases, acceptance test cases, FAQs, job aid manuals. Apart from that, I've also created other reusable requirements. Other reusable requirements such as non-functional requirement specification, business rules, message catalogs, data dictionaries or data catalogs, your non-functional requirements, business rules, message catalogs, data catalogs, and what else are we missing? What else have we got? We're missing one more, guys. Definition of done? Nothing, right?
The acceptance and evaluation criteria.
Yeah, which was covered here. So that's fine. So these are the non-functional requirement, business rule, message catalogs, and the catalogs are some of the other reusable requirements, and they apply to both waterfall as well as agile. For user stories, for every user story, you should have non-functional requirements, business rules, message catalogs, and data catalogs. And for every business requirement, you should have these 4 items, right? Very important. There could be some more reusable. These are called reusable requirements because once you create them, organizations have created them. Your projects may not update any, or sometimes may update some, right? So I think we are going to stop here. Because this is a lot for today, and all these questions will be sent to you later on today. We will stop here. and